listening on the audio side, Eck will do some editing. You may notice nothing. But we were actually talking to no one out there on the internet until someone managed to tell us we were talking to no one.
We've been rambling for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you guys got to enjoy. The beauty was that people watching the live stream are probably watching us emote. Thank you, Usman. Usman knows that we have sound again. Yes, to everyone who's in the chat, we were just talking about the new Kickstarter project from friends of ours. Those of you listening on the audio side, this may be redundant information to you since we've already been talking about it. Eck may edit it. It all depends on how tired he is later. Long story short, check out the Cube Vault project. I think it's the best thing you can carry your cards in for $100. And if you think about how valuable your cube is, it's a drop in the bucket. I definitely would. Again, if we didn't roll with how we rolled, I'd be backing these guys.
You spend that much money on sleeves for cube anyway.
I know. I think we've covered that in kind of a Q&A type session before, but I think it's well worth it. These guys are going to hit. They're going to hit their mark. So we're talking about stretch goals that you would look for. Definitely go to the page, add some comments, things you'd like to see added to the product. I think there's a lot of great opportunities out there.
Cool.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I agree. You know, we were talking to Justin Treadway earlier today, and the locks are a little hokey. And it's not like stopping anyone from taking it. They're not like, you know...
Yeah, if this thing was slightly larger, it would hold...
Our cube, I know, yeah. Or if we just, like, kind of, like, came back to reality a little bit on the cube, since we, like...
Or just reduce the amount of basic lands we roll with.
But we can't do that. We've hit capacity before.
I know.
Like, we've bulked up to do the 2 8-man drafts when we weren't doing that for a long time. Yeah. So... since we haven't been around for a couple of weeks, we wanted to come back with something that was a little more exciting, a little more enticing, not go over the standard rigmarole we've been going over, because, you know, obviously that's very boring. So, listings, rankings, these are the things we're interested in as Magic players. We're analytical people. We want to define the best, the worst.
People like top 10 lists.
Set them in line. So, after talking to various well-educated, well-respected sources in the community, and
other less well-respected, less educated sources as well.
Ourselves.
Right.
We compiled the top 25 Planeswalkers from the cube, which will be our main topic of today. It'll be a great countdown show. It'll be a lot of fun. But until then, let's bring it back. Let's do a little pick one, pack one today. Tell us what we're looking at, Eck.
All right, for this week's pick one, we have Seismic Assault, Neither Reliquary. What card is that?
Deadbridge Goliath?
Deadbridge Goliath, sorry. City of Brass, Damnation, Yosai the Morningstar, Hero of Oxid Ridge, Student of Warfare, Jester's Cap, Phantasmal Image, Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, Burning of Zinyi, Exclude, Leonin Relic Water, and Breeding Pool.
Well, it seems like a lot of times packs come up with Damnation in it, and I tell you about how unique Damnation is, how it's really hard to replicate. Probably want to take that card.
This might be the pack that you take Damnation out of. The one time.
It's funny. Boy, all those times we didn't go that route in the past. I think really quickly I can narrow it down to Damnation, Hero of Oxid Ridge, and I guess Phantasmal Image. Exclude isn't that top tier in the blue area.
Phantasmal Image is very, very good.
Yeah, let no legend rule change fool you, kids. This card still slices and dices.
I mean, I really also like Hero of Oxid Ridge. I would say it's the second best red 4-drop.
Whoa.
Now for the aggro red deck.
And you're including, like, Koth,
yes.
You're including Hellrider.
Yes. Hellrider's number 1, and...
Hero be number 2 because it's like a pseudo Hellrider.
Yeah, they're effectively kind of similar.
Yeah, the Battlecry portion.
Like...
I mean, they're not.
You definitely, like, if you want to be in the mono red deck, which is always a reasonable, decision to make, having, you want probably 2 cards, maybe 3, that cost 4 or more mana. So they have to be very, very impactful. Like, the really aggressive red decks, like, don't even really want, like, Flame Tongue Kavu, because it just isn't enough. Like, it needs haste for it to, like, see play in the red deck, The only cards above 4 mana that I would be considering are, Keldon Champion, Hellrider, Koth, Hero of Oxid Ridge, and Thundermaw Hellkite.
No Keldon Champion?
Didn't I say Keldon Champion?
I don't remember.
But, like, they have to be, like, that level of, like, immediate board impact. And Hero is one of the better ones. Works great with, it makes your little guys a lot better. It solves a lot of the problems that the deck has with things like, random walls and tokens just kind of gumming up the ground. So it's absolutely a completely reasonable and acceptable pick, and I know at least one person under this roof right now would take Hero of Oxid Ridge out of this pack in a heartbeat.
Okay.
So,
Usman's comments from the chat also are very very quality here in this conversation. He had someone recently draft mono red in his cube. That particular player ended up with 1 drop and 6 4-drops. Surprise, surprise, that person didn't do so well in that particular draft. So we've narrowed it down. Hero versus Damnation. Damnation's the only black card in the pack, too, which really kind of helps me out. I think I'm going to go a little Damnation for myself. How about you, Eck?
I mean, I think I'd probably just take Hero. The mono red deck just... It's one of those weird decks where, like, if there's a will, there's a way. Well, it just always seems to come together.
There's a lot more cheap burn spells than there are Heroes of Oxid Ridge. I think that's more the way you would lean that direction. It's not like, it's Lightning Bolt or Damnation.
No. Hero is a premier spell in the mono red aggro deck. And it's also, I mean, it's not exclusively mono. It's not like it costs quad red. It's not Phyrexian Obliterator. You can play it in red, white, and like a token strategy. You can play it in like a mid-rangey red-green deck if you really wanted to. So it's just like a very powerful, like certain decks just can't actually block it ever, and that's just like a huge game for the aggro decks, and that's what you want. These decks that are going to play 16 lands, that's what they want out of the top end of their curve.
All right, well let's move on to a little. We've got 4 cards. What's going on?
We got a sweet 4 cards.
They're good.
We've got Umezawa's Jitte, Oblivion Ring, Sylvan Library, Landwar Elves. The pack that we are past is Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, I believe it's the name of that card. Disenchant, Juggernaut, Evolving Wilds, Turn and Burn, Jace's Ingenuity, Steam Vents, Wolfear Avenger, Obstinate Baloth, Eureka, and Lotus Cobra.
Okay, this feels like an easy Lotus Cobra.
I agree with you, and my main reason why is strictly because of Jitte.
Okay, so I'm gonna extrapolate from that for starters, it's a 4-mana spell effectively, but you want to get it, so strap it on.
Lotus Cobra is one of the very few accelerants that lets you play, equip, and attack with Jitte on turn 3 with no other cards. Lotus Cobra, Jitte, and 3 lands allows you to attack with an equipped Jitte on turn 3. And the power of that play is almost unmatchable. Even in a cube environment, getting Jitte online that fast is just absolutely insane. And a lot of decks can barely beat the first time Jitte gets counters. The first time counters get placed on Jitte, a lot of decks odds of winning the game get reduced by a humongous margin. So being able to do
I would say it creates a very quick sub game. Right. Now the game centers around this card, similar to a Planeswalker. Yeah. Completely agree. I think the other kind of thing that's a nod to it is the fact here that now you're going to have 3 gray-green cards and obviously the most spectacular equipment in all of Cube, and you just have a white mana symbol inside Oblivion Ring, so you're still very open, and Lotus Cobra is going to allow you to maybe touch on that third color. Maybe you end up getting a lot of black or blue, and you just have an Oblivion Ring in your pool, or maybe you go green-white, who knows. Lotus Cobra not only doesn't shut any doors, it almost opens more doors by taking it right here.
Well, you just don't walk into more doors every day. But, I mean, I think it's just, even separate from, the color fixing aspects of Cobra, I am being very sincere when I say that, maximizing the explosive power of Jitte with Cobra is, very difficult to deal with. There are a lot of decks that just are not going to beat an active Jitte on turn 3.
Well, again, the scenario you're describing is very, very rare, that you're going to go from Accelerant to an equipped guy, because, again, the creatures are mana creatures.
You can't do that with Landwar Elves, you can't do that with Draga Treespeaker, even. You have to... It's so much more difficult to get Jitte active and active, equipped, attacking on turn 3
So let's mix it up. We agree Cobra is the clear winner here. If that had just been, an Elvish Mystic in place of a Lotus Cobra, how different is life for us here? I mean, are you thinking Obstinate Baloth or Wolfie Revenger?
I think that if it's an accelerant, I'm still taking it. Like, if it's, like you said, Elvish Mystic. I mean, if it's a total blank, like, if that is, like,
if that was Island.
If that was Giant Growth, then, like, Wolfie Revenger gets a lot better because typically, like, well, we always kind of recommend that cube decks have at least one main deck artifact destruction spell because artifacts are very good in our cube.
Right, yeah.
Not all of them heed that advice.
Right.
And a lot of times the way people deal with Jitte in particular is to try and kill all of your creatures.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, well, if he can never get Jitte on anything.
Well, obviously I'm playing Grixis Control most of the time, and I didn't draw my one Shatter.
Right.
So that's the way I have to do it.
The plan is to now kill all of the creatures. So being able to flash a guy in, especially one with Regenerate, causes like a lot of headaches for decks that are trying to go on that plan, because it just really throws their math off of like, okay, I'll block with this guy, and then we'll trade, and then like I'll kill the other guy, and then do this and that, and then all of a sudden, like, you have a 3/3 all of a sudden, and it, like, completely messes with their, like, the flow of the game that they were trying to make. And when you're backing that up with Jitte, like, any disruption you can put to your opponent is just going to absolutely crush them.
I mean, I think what I'm learning from this scenario is that Jitte is really skewing card evaluations. I mean, to me, I'm looking at Obstinate Baloth thinking, like, that's a premier green card in this scenario. Like,
the best card in cube when you have Jitte is Stoneforge Mystic.
Okay, well, I mean,
like Jitte is that good. Like, you always, if you have it, you always want it in play and you always want it active.
Right.
So anything you can do to make that happen faster and more often, you will do.
Well, by that logic, it would be like, oh, well, Jace's Ingenuity must be really good because it draws me to Jitte.
Right, but it's slower than Jitte.
Yeah. All right, so we knew that. It's a good card. Let's. What do we have next?
This is also a saucy one.
Okay.
So for the pack, we've got Mana Vault, Shriekmaw.
No, that's a Mana Crypt.
Oh, Mana Crypt, right? Man, I'm bloated today. Mana Crypt, Shriekmaw, Flametongue Kavu, Molten Steel Dragon, and we are past Tooth and Nail, Fireball, Carnophage, Ajani, Collar of the Pride, Return to Dust, Venser the Sojourner, Lotus Cobra, Crater Hellion, Mindslaver, Compulsive Research, and Aetherling.
Yes, Sam Party, Grand Prix winner Sam Party. You are correct. We should be mulliganing into a better Fireball artwork. Eck doesn't always take the most time to put together the most clean pack.
Sometimes I'm under pressure and it's just like sometimes the first thing that pops up.
Sometimes we have a Scars of Mirrodin Mindslaver and a dual deck Venser the Sojourner, but we live with it.
And a Commander FTK.
Yes. Is that the first time that artwork shows up? That's really weird.
I think so.
So Usman just immediately says Aetherling here. I think that is good because that card is so good.
I mean, here's the problem with the cards that we have right now. Like, I understand that this is very early in the draft and we only have 4 cards. But the cards that we have look like we're trying to be some odd mid-range to slow black-red control deck, and that will never work.
So you're saying we shouldn't just snap off that Crater Hellion?
I'm saying I agree with Usman. Abandon ship, take Aetherling, and like maybe you get to play that Shriekmaw, or maybe you play that FTK.
I actually think Sam's got the right idea here. He's take the Compulsive Research. That he's saying he doesn't have a lot of experience with Aetherling, so he's not so sure. But look at this scenario where you've got single red off Flametongue Kavu, which you're going to want to play. You got single black off of Shriekmaw, and that guy is value all over the place.
I mean, I think you probably end up playing one or the other.
Well, it's interesting because there are not a lot of successful decks that play Crypt and Molten Steel Dragon, in my experience.
Well, there's
that's
also just
that's an awkward 1-2 punch.
There's also, I mean, like face facts. There's just not a lot of successful decks that play swamps and mountains.
The Rakdos win percentage almost only comes from the 4 and below casting cost cards.
Yeah.
And we've already kind of broken that wall open. I mean, not to say that, Shriekmaw doesn't cost 2, and the Molten Steel Dragon doesn't cost 4.
But, I want Rakdos Shred Freak in that deck. I don't want...
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, not in this deck. In the ideal...
In the Rakdos.
In the ideal
If I'm
Rakdos
Rakdos,
deck.
I want to be, like, Rakdos Cackling, not like
Flames
Rakdos.
Kavu into you don't want to go 4, 5, 6 in the Rakdos deck like this.
Right. I want to go 1, 2, 3. I want
which is ironic because those are powerful effects on these cards.
Absolutely. I'm not debating the individual card power of any of these. Mana Crypt is very, very good. That being said, just out of experience and watching other people do it and trying to do it myself, Black-Red just does not cut the mustard a lot of times. And it's, maybe something that we need to maybe kind of work on, or maybe it's just kind of an inherent flaw with the way the colors are set up. But
I will tell you that recently, after we kind of did the guild breakdowns for Cube, and we kind of shat a lot on things like Orzhov and Izzet, almost all of my drafts in the last few months, I've somehow managed to draft red-blue.
I spiked Orzhov for 3 weeks in a row and 9-0'd.
You ate one. Be real.
Did I lose one?
Yeah, you lost one.
The first week?
Yeah.
Well, in the month, in the last month, it went Orzhov, Izzet. And I went a total of 11-1.
I've already forgotten how this really... Oh, so we're talking about Rakdos.
We're talking about Rakdos.
Yeah, so
Rakdos is kind of somehow, without really doing anything, has fallen, into last place.
Yeah, it's weird. So long story short, if it's not the super aggressive Rakdos deck, I really think that Compulsive Research is the way you want to go here. You're going to get the value back that you're losing by going 3 colors, more of a control shell, by having more of the premier removal cards like Flametongue Kavu and Shriekmaw, while at the same time having access to the acceleration like Mana Crypt. And again, Sam in the chat is spot on as usual, where a card like Aetherling really costs triple blue, and here we are with 0 blue mana symbols in our pool so far. And again, Crypt and Dragon make me kind of wary about, let's just go with the most expensive stuff as possible. I completely agree. The power level of Aetherling is almost through the roof here. It's really a spectacular card. But I think I would take the safer line on Compulsive Research, especially when I have no idea if I'm going to be playing 17 basic lands in my deck.
This definitely does not look like Aetherling's home, if that makes any sense.
I don't know, the concept. I mean, the concept seems like it does. If you just kind of blur out that Molesteel Dragon, and if you had Grixis control with cards like Shriekmaw, Flametongue Kavu, and accelerants like Mana Crypt, Aetherling could be a very quick finisher that would be unstoppable.
You can just take Crater Hellion for the enter the battlefield, kill something momentary blink deck.
See, I think that's first level thinking. First level thinking is you take that Crater Hellion because it's I'm going to play the black-red kill all your stuff, but it also happens to be 1/8/7 guys, so I'm going to easily win the game because all my guys will be attacking after they acted as spells.
Then your opponent plays an Ancestral Recall and you just lose.
Oh, as I say, they just don't play a creature for a while, and then play Elspeth or something.
Yeah, and oh god.
So I think this pack, although it happened organically, is a great example of not only understanding lines of drafting or deck archetypes, but also trying to think outside the regular drafting box and think more about the cube format where. You're very early in the draft and you're like, well, I'm not really committed to much of anything. I have a black mana symbol, I have a red mana symbol, I can easily take a blue mana symbol. So I think that is the way to go here. Things are popping off all over us.
That sounded gross.
Yeah, I didn't mean it for it to come out that way.
Sorry.
So is there anything else going on? Our show notes, we didn't really put show notes together for this because it took so long to put together the list.
Right. I mean, technically we had show notes from a month ago.
Yeah, and I don't know how relevant those are anymore.
Cube News, notable Cube News, Magic Online tonight has officially announced the retiring of Cube tickets.
Yes, the long and very successful history of the Cube ticket, as we
Everyone
all know.
is sad to see them go. They're now
Yes.
Phantom, not tickets, Phantom points, because they've decided to make points instead of tickets. I don't know why. But you can now enter any Phantom event with they're going to 1-to-1 exchange Cube tickets for Phantom
good
tickets, whatever, and then you can enter.
So does that mean I can enter new player events?
No, those require new player points, which are
it.
also different.
So then now they're new player points. They're not even new player tickets anymore?
Correct.
Oh, wow. You read that article during the last hour and a half?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
My matches were very quick.
That's right, yeah.
So slight, good news, I guess, making Cube tickets strictly better than they were.
You'd like to think in a very small way they heard our cries most recently where we complained about
them being
how
totally
ridiculous.
worthless.
Because at least you're getting a little bit closer to acknowledging how ridiculous these things are. Because before it was Cube tickets, we expect them to have Cube value. No. They're Phantom, they don't exist, you can't trade them, etc., etc. Here, Phantom tickets have Phantom value.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that one.
They're just enjoyment bucks.
Exactly.
They're strictly for, having a good time.
For the Cube community, we lose a little because it was nice to kind of have that nomenclature, that kind of title there for us to be like,
the problem,
this is ours.
The problem with it, though, is it's like, yeah, it's our nomenclature tied to a very shitty thing no one wanted.
Well, and during the...
It's like everyone got to see Cube and be mad at the same time.
And then during the MMA drafts, they're like, oh, you can enter with Cube tickets. I'm like, what? Really? Okay.
So, I mean, this makes a lot more sense, That's kind of how they were going anyway. So, strictly better, Phantom events for all. So that's always fun.
Do you have any initial results? I think the last time we casted, we had just implemented changes for M14. Oh, it should be pointed out, we made and one additional card change we actually need to update Cube Tutor on, and probably the other one, was we put in Simic of Tides and Imposing Sovereign.
Yeah.
And that was not in our official M14 update. But Eck has once again talked me into it. I am just caving left and right these days.
Folding.
I love how we made the change, and you have yet to pick up that Simic of Tides or that Blind Obedience you were so excited to play with.
I literally played Orzhov 3 weeks in a row after we made that change. And yet, did not see
You saw Simic of Tides several times, kept shipping it on by.
What, today when I was playing Blue Black?
No, before. I definitely heard you proclaim. Like, I remember the very first time it was in the pack,
it was, okay,
and, like,
sure.
I saw it. And
it was
like
at the same pack with, like, a Godless Shrine or something.
No, whatever.
So, anyway, believe me, I want to play with it. The other M14 changes so far have been positive. I have drafted a Young Pyromancer deck. It 3-0'd.
But how much did Young Pyromancer have impact on those games?
It very much blew out a combat step.
So
my opponent attacked.
You killed some stuff. You made some guys that then made additional blocks.
Well, my opponent attacked. So I had Young Pyromancer and like 1 token, and he attacked with two toughness guys.
Okay.
And then
not the worst thing in the world.
I fired for 1 on each, made a 2nd token, and blocked each.
Oh, okay.
And like scooped his team. So and then like the other times, like one of the things about Pyromancer is that like people have the fear of him still, because he's like the new flashy card. So he like is very much like a standard bearer, where he just draws all removal, which is kind of nice for having.
So if you're just playing like a standard red beatdown deck, and he's like no different from any other
exactly. He will
Goblin Piker.
He'll still just like draw all the removal, which is great.
I think to bring up more relevant arguments was we actually just, I just went home and started the new kind of like ideas chart for what will eventually be the Theros card change. Was we'd had some conversations about things we were interested in. And Eck was looking through one of the extras binder and then noticed that Ash Zealot was out of the cube, and Ash Zealot has been out of the cube for a little while at this point. It's gone back and forth in changes. I'm pretty sure it came out for a Tinsri Hooligan. We were just trying to like...
It should be back in though.
Alright, so all of a sudden we had this long conversation about red 2-drops and like how do you rank red 2-drops, and like, Slith Firewalker is probably a less than overall damage than an Ash Zealot, but where does a card like Hellspark Elemental fall on this scale? And now I've kind of like go back to the drawing board on this whole thing, so there'll probably be a little bit of uproar in that in the near future.
Also, spoiler alert, Goblin Bombardment coming to a cube near you.
Yeah, I also think Vengeful Pharaoh will be a lock for the next update, because I really want to see that happen. I think
it didn't happen before.
That was a different world. That was a pre-Bazaar Baghdad world. That was a...
I had Bazaar Tonight, it was good.
That was a Zombies Matter Again Gravecrawler type environment. Vengeful Pharaoh came out in a core set years ago at this point, and was triple black, still when no one wanted to play black. And now we're giving you the opportunity to just never have to cast it and hopefully do cool stuff. Because one of the things the Bazaar Baghdad deck generally has trouble doing is having mana to cast relevant spells, because it's too busy playing at Bazaar Baghdad as a land and then activating it, which isn't generating mana.
So, Crocodile wants to know, with Theros being an enchantment block, do you think an enchantment theme might creep into your cube? Or is that a thought best saved until spoilers?
Probably saved till spoilers. Now, I know other people out there on the internet have explored the kind of like shields up maneuvers a little bit more of, I would say, like the propaganda Ghostly Prison route, and less like the Verter and Enchantress combo route.
I think that, it's always good. So in a situation like Theros, where we don't know the cards yet, obviously, but we know kind of the things that are going, the overarching themes, right? Enchantments, legends, whatever. Like, when they give you those kind of talking points, like, hey, enchantments are going to matter. Like, we have all this time. Now is a great time to go back and look at cards that we're not playing.
Those are fun times.
Right. Like, when you're just kind of browsing, you're just on Gathering, you're just like, doodling around. But like you're thinking like, oh, Theros is probably gonna have some like enchantment related business going on. Like, what enchantments are we not playing, or what things that interact with enchantments in some way are like that might be like. And you keep like a short list of like, well, if they're gonna print a bunch of awesome enchantments or whatever, like these cards all of a sudden become good.
Yeah, I think that what's important to remember, again, in the cube format, we always come back to that. Cards want to be able to stand alone. I mean, when we talked about slivers and how they eventually continue to not make the cut, it's not because we don't like them and not that they can't do powerful blowout style things. It's just that they have to be able to stand on their own. It's a singleton, limited environment. And so enchantments kind of have to be the same way, and cards that interact with enchantments have to be the same way. Because I got to tell you, Argothian Enchantress is not exactly wetting my whistle in any way. For
none of those cards are. Like,
no, and to add enough of them to the cube to have kind of critical mass would be to have a cube that's 2,000 cards, or to dilute the sections you already have.
But like, for example, something like in a more modern sense, like a card like a Johnny's Chosen, where you're like, okay,
a mediocre creature that makes some tokens.
Right, but it's like, okay, White already has like cards like Oblivion Ring and Aura of Silence and Journey to Nowhere. Like, it already has some enchantments and Crusades and whatever else. Like, if Theros ends up making a bunch more enchantments that are going to get played in cube because they're good, like that card's stock could potentially rise. I'm not saying that like, buy a Johnny's Chosen now, they're definitely going in cube, but I think it's important to keep cards that are like potentially can rise in value, like keep them in mind.
So the poster child for this whole thing, and I think what's the most important thing to think about if you're a cube owner, builder, tinkerer, player, in the pre-spoiler, all speculation and theory crafting, we play Academy Rector. We like Academy Rector. We'd like Academy Rector to be better. This may be an opportunity for Academy Rector to be better. Is Academy Rector good enough to stand on its own in cube right now? Just enough. And that's why it's there.
Right.
So
it's barely good enough, and it's fun.
It's a good psych out. I psyched out Eck with it the other day, and he wasn't even in the match. I was playing Vin, and I was holding the Form of the Dragon. And I tutored for like a Journey to Nowhere when it died or something, and you're like, why didn't you just get that? Anyway. So, yeah, being able to evaluate cards to know they can stand on their own. And I'm not going to like immediately be like, oh my god, Theros is an enchantment block. Where's my Oratog? Where's my Verdant Enchantress? My Enchantress's Presence? I better load them all. Where's the Sphere of Safety? I need to load all these things together. Yeah. I think enchantments are fun. I mean, again, I really wish we could have a way to play a card like Solitary Confinement in Cube. Although, it seems kind of dickish. Like,
right.
I like Solitary Confinement as a strategy.
Right,
it exercises a different part of your mind.
You take pleasure in the pain of others.
Oh, the guy with mountains, he just does not have a good day. But no, we'll hold that one for the most part. But we have a lot. We had a lot to talk about. We probably want to bring in Sin Collector.
The Hydra has been basically spoiled.
Oh yeah, but I don't care about that. That wasn't even good.
No, it was confusing.
Right, because it's like a sorcery activated ability. I don't even want to go into it now. We'll wait until we have something to show you and talk about. Was there anything else from the new maybes list? Oh, I keep threatening, and this was something I was going to hit for another day, but people on the Twitter machine were very excited about this. The idea of bringing some banding into the cube.
Yes.
I mean, and this kind of like this conversation resurfaced.
Forcing
recently.
New players to learn archaic rules.
All right, so maybe someone like Moses would be much more benign to this idea and would just want to murder us. But there was another conversation broke out recently at the store that we play at all the time, where it's like, what exactly does banding do? So we had a 15-minute conversation about what banding
had a very in-depth conversation about like the comprehensive rulebook definition of banding.
At the end of the day, like you can convince people that it just kind of like blows out combat.
Yeah.
Especially
when you boil it down to like, you always get to decide how damage is distributed. People are like, that's not what banding does.
And nowadays,
no, that's what it does.
And nowadays, it almost makes sense to people because you can say like, well, Audric. Audric's a magic card, right? Okay, you've played with it or against it, like online, hopefully, like at least once. It's just that all the time on whatever has it.
Yeah,
but that's the simplest answer. It's not the full answer.
It's not the full.
Can my Pegasus band with my whale? I mean, teaming up with this camel to go through the desert.
Really, banding exists solely for humorous mental imagery.
So I keep thinking, like, I was like,
a Palinchron being carried by a Pegasus,
and then you're
with a shield bearer on the front of it.
Yeah, shield bearer is so good.
Like, banding is hysterical because it's actually insane but all the cards they put it on are terrible as a result.
No, they're not. They're
Well,
not all
a few of them
terrible.
are fine, but
The problem is that they when they designed those cards, they knew it was so good that they had to make them bad. Occasion Phalanx is a spectacular card. 2/4 banding, and then you're like, why does it cost 5 mana for a 2/4?
Yeah,
If you know what it does.
subpar quality creatures in 1998.
That's really the problem with banning, is that it just kind of draws games. It's not like there's not like a 6/1 banding creature.
Bandering Firecat.
That would be very helpful. So, you know, and this kind of bleeds into other conversations where it's like, you know, Magic is Cube is about Magic history to me, and I want to have those things there, but the cards that get printed, I mean, if you look at the percentage of cards that have been printed in Magic for the last 3 or 4 years that are in Cube versus the first 10 years, just kind of crunch the numbers on those. It's not favorable for the history of Magic.
Those cards keep getting worse.
Right. The standard thing is the spells always get worse, the creatures always get better, and you play with more creatures. So really, you're just you're regurgitating previous, very primitive, limited formats that are all creatures batched together.
I've said for a while that Cube is old spells versus new dudes.
Yeah, Usman has said that many times.
Fight.
Yeah, kind of like separated them into two sides. So I just really want to put like Banlish Hero in the Cube. I want to put like Banlish Hero.
War Elephant. Is War Elephant?
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
2/2 banning for 4.
Yeah.
Arabian Nights. So Banlish Hero, Errand of Duty, and Shield Bearer would be the blowout, but. That's where the line is drawn, because you're literally putting a 0/3 for 2 mana in your cube at that point. Like,
you've gone.
If you're playing Shield Bearer, you're just fucking with people. You're not actually ever going to win a game, as opposed to Banlish Hero, who could be tutored with Rage of Evios, who could be curved out, he could be pumped by Crusade. It is on.
To be done.
Also a nod to the chat, as usual. Sam, spot on. He needs his own channel. You should really check that out. Cooperation. If you're not familiar with that card, please do look it up. Once when we built the Crap Cube, Cooperation was in there. I believe I cast it a non-zero amount of times. So these things
great art on Cooperation.
We haven't casted in so long. Everything's like off center. Like the card needs. I need to come in this way.
I don't know what happened, but. Yeah.
So yeah, like that's the biggest uproar right now. I've threatened the Banlish Hero before. One day I just want people to show up and be like, you know, really, is this happening? And then it's going to be 15th and no one's going to play it anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't really think there's any love lost.
Well, speaking of new Magic cards, Planeswalkers, they're the hot new thing on the block.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know if you've heard about these things.
Aren't there like 4? Do you remember we started cubing and there were 5?
Yeah.
We started cubing and there were 5 Planeswalkers. That's it, 5.
Yeah.
Weren't that big of a deal. We got to play all kinds of cool 5-color dragon magic.
Now there's a Planeswalker for every little thing.
A Planeswalker plethora.
A plethora. For every style and deck and archetype. And so we felt at this point, you know, everyone sits around.
The people always ask, which one's better? What's the first pick?
What, you know...
Jace or Lotus?
What's better, Elspeth, Tyrell, or a Johnny Collar of Pride?
I'm telling you right now, somebody that I felt robbed in this voting process. If this was a Miss America thing, would not even podium. Such a shame.
Yeah. So, we decided at this point, we're up to 25.
In our cube, we're up to 25. Now, overall, for those of you that aren't counting at home, there are 39 Planeswalkers in print. And then there's one that's not in print that Kenny also put on his list.
A few Planeswalkers also get the DQ, things like Nissa Ravane.
Yeah, hit your opponent with the ring bell, you're immediately out.
Like, you know, the things that just do not work in a cube environment. So, you know, obviously they're not counted. But
I will say we span the internet far, maybe not wide. Kind of put out initially.
How many people do we have for this?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's like 2 locals, 2 guys from Turn 1 Magic, Justin and... Sorry, why did I say Justin?
I don't know.
Usman and Anthony, you and myself, Kenny from Reno, Justin Parnell, that's why I said Justin, from Star City Games.
All submitting lists, all voicing their opinions. We've compiled every list that we've gotten together.
Oh yeah, it was Jonathan Richmond is also included in there. I didn't mean to leave you out.
We got
going back and forth in the spreadsheet.
So the following is the 25 winners.
Count it down, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your bag of popcorn because we're doing a VH1 style here, bringing you.
All right, so 25.
Do you want to start with the not so honorable mentions? You want to talk about any of the Planeswalkers? We can just go right. We can go headlong into it if you want.
25.
Are there any? There's nobody. We'll intermission it. We'll talk about things in between.
Sure.
We play 25 Planeswalkers. This is the list of our 25 Planeswalkers and how we rank them. This list is compiled in conjunction with our friends and family on the internet. Not all of them necessarily play these Planeswalkers in their cube. However, they've been nice enough to rank them for us. So starting at the bottom, Eck's favorite card of the last 6 months, probably. Take it away.
It's Gideon Shaving Injustice. Oh, how I wish this card didn't make the list.
Now, I think the precursor conversation you could have here is 25 Planeswalkers? Why not 35 Planeswalkers? Why not 15
Why not 24 Planeswalkers if this guy's 25?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I like to think of this card as kind of a different kind of Blastoderm. Or Calciderm. There we go. It's a different kind of Calciderm.
A card we cut a long time ago, so continue.
It attacks from different angles. I think this card, it can make players play Magic better. It leads to opportunities for good players to play well. It functions differently. It's unique enough that I like it. Obviously, if we were going to cut a Planeswalker from the cube, this would be the one that we would cut.
He's at the bottom of the list. He's hanging on by a thread. All it's going to take is the new Elspeth and Theros or whatever, and this guy's going to get the bump.
Unless that Elspeth costs 7 mana, or
sure,
she costs 3.
If she costs 18 mana and doesn't do anything, then yeah. But
so again,
I wouldn't hold my breath.
So tell the people at home why he's the bottom for you. I mean, we're in agreement, I believe. We left this guy both at the bottom.
Yeah. He just doesn't do anything. He's an awkward 4 mana 4/4, maybe a little bit bigger. Like he doesn't. Like he's at
least a 5/5, right?
He defends himself in the manner of his loyalty goes up super high, but it doesn't actually do anything. Like I have like the ultimate is so telegraphed that I have your opponent can just absolutely play around it to the point where I have ultimated this Planeswalker and then lost that game.
I want to say there's more to that story, but I don't even know. Yes, that has happened. It's not like the game is really like Apocalypse was not cast and Gideon stood alone. It was an awkward scenario. I look at it as it can be an aggressive beater that might also gain you a bunch of life. But I see what you're saying. When it rains, it pours with this card.
4 mana, no haste, not an aggressive beater. That's the rule.
Can't defend himself really.
No,
he can only kind of keep fighting.
He's horrible when you're behind.
Now, do you think...
You can't block.
Do you think 25 Planeswalkers is... I mean, sorry, let me rephrase that. Do you think 24 Planeswalkers is kind of right where the sweet spot is? Do you wish they were more or different? Would you really kind of scale it back? How do you feel like in 700 cards, are Planeswalkers too frequent or infrequent or just right?
I think at this point, Planeswalkers are just a part of Magic, and they don't need to be like a particular rarity or a limited quantity. And, they should just be evaluated on the quality of them, as compared to other cards. Like, I don't feel like we have to cut this Gideon for another Planeswalker. Like, this could very easily just be another spell.
And again, starting with this card on the list is helpful because this is the one that functions most like a bad creature.
Yeah.
So I think that so many times when people kind of talk down to Planeswalkers or talk them being a destructive card type, it's because they create so many subgames, because the game of Magic takes a back seat to the Planeswalker game. And so, in a limited environment, if you just look at how Wizards prints Planeswalkers, the frequency, the rarity, the uniqueness, they've obviously scaled it well back. Where we've got, over all of Ravnica block, we got 4 Planeswalkers.
There's some, discussion in the chat about limiting Planeswalkers because of game warping. I don't think they're necessarily warping the game any more than Magic is already warped by their existence. I don't think that
it's the world we live in, right?
It's not like you see a deck that's got 12 Planeswalkers in it and then they're awesome and they 3-0 every draft. That's not even good. Planeswalkers are just another card type. It's just another Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them change the game, some of them don't do anything when you draw them. They're like any other swingy Magic card, and Gideon just doesn't swing very high.
Well, it's just the world we live in with Magic now, and we can fight as much as we want to. I mean, again, the 1994 Cube article that we reviewed on the show recently, that is a great way to circumvent this whole problem and play Magic of days of yore. We don't live in those days. We don't live in that world anymore. There were actually 5, yes. I thought there were as soon as I said 4. Because somebody just forgot. Anyway, that is Magic. You can't avoid it. It's all about just working with it. And I wouldn't want 35 Planeswalkers in our cube. I don't think I'd want 30. I think we've kind of hit the sweet spot at 25 and 700. Kind of like trying to keep balanced each color, although it doesn't really balance out, as we'll see later.
Well, part of the function of Planeswalkers is they have, because of how the card type is designed and the way it exists, you can't make good cheap ones. 3 mana is about as cheap as they get, and they're very limited in what they do. So aggressive decks really don't benefit from Planeswalkers. So one thing you have to be cognizant of is how Planeswalkers keep down aggro. Like, the only, Tybalt is the only 2-mana Planeswalker, and that's not a card. So
we tried for a little while. We tried
for 5 minutes. Until they print, a 2-mana red Planeswalker that pings an opponent or something.
And to me, my argument has always been that would just be a part of a rarity adjustment, because I think Planeswalkers can exist outside of Mythic rares. It kind of spirals in this whole other thing, because as they exist right now, they are the face of the game. They are the cornerstone. They're the chase cards. They're the whatever you want to call them. So we don't have that. And thusly, we have to be a little more careful with that.
All right. I feel like we've been talking way too long about Gideon Champion Adjustment.
We're not talking about Gideon Champion Adjustment. We're talking about Planeswalkers in general.
We're moving on. 24 on the list. Sarkhan El Loco. That's right.
This guy, I think he's the quintessential bottom of the list kind of card, because he comes in and out of the cube so often.
Right. And he's a pretty consistent... A lot of the cards at the bottom are pretty consistent bench players.
And they also happen to have, maybe high casting costs or maybe weird casting costs. Sarkhan is one of those cards where oftentimes it's like a sorcery with suspend, or it's like a weird edict / upgrade on your guy. Since it has a lot of modes, it makes the cube and it does stuff. But since it doesn't function like the other Planeswalkers, which are very good, it's slow.
So the thing about Sarkhan is that he's kind of a cool, he draws you some cards or turns something into a dragon or whatever. The problem with Sarkhan is that it's a 5-mana sorcery speed spell that doesn't win you the game. Never. Doesn't stop you from losing the game. He just kind of hangs out in that awkward middle ground of, treading water.
Right.
Sarkhan the Mad is, a very quintessentially treading water kind of card, where, if you're behind, he's not going to help you really catch up. If you're ahead, he's not going to, put it away. He's just kind of this, if the game is, in a stalemate, he's okay for, 3 turns and he dies. He's okay, but, whatever.
Again, in order to defend himself, he needs to have a guy. In order for him to be good, in best case scenario, you have to be at some kind of parity and then looking to draw some kind of middle-of-the-road cards, or the top card of your decks can win the game. And then lastly, show of hands, has anyone ever activated that ultimate?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I've thought about it, I've contemplated it, I've come really close and wanted to, and then had not happen, but I've never...
I specifically killed my opponent using Chameleon Colossus.
Ah.
It was attack.
Did you have to pump up the jams?
It was attack, pump, play Sarkhan,
minus him.
Dome you for 8.
So it was a 16-point turn with
9 mana. The low cost.
The low cost of red, black, green, and
green. No, green. Well, in the same. Anyway, so that's Sarkhan the Mad in a nutshell. He'll probably get cut within the next 3 months.
Again, the reason he's in the cube right now is we want a little more diversity in the Rakdos section. And maybe we need to reevaluate the Rakdos section after that pick scenario today, where we just shit on
Rakdos
more aggressive more often. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of great options for Rakdos. We may touch on it soon, sooner more than later.
23 on the list, one that is very low in my opinion,
is a community ranking.
Ral Zarek, and I think this, I believe, is mostly because he is new. He's the new kid on the block, and nobody likes him because they don't have a lot of experience with him yet.
I I personally think I rated this guy so low. I think
you broke the system. Like
no, I think for a while, no, I did not skew the results on this card. I think that I had such low expectations of this card. I wasn't even going to include it in the cube.
I put this guy at 11.
I had to be talked into adding this card, and then after it got added,
like I put this guy at 11. That's how I think he is very good. And
I think there are 2 Planeswalkers overall that we count because we there was a great debate about Tezzerets. We don't run Tezzerets.
I will fully admit that when this card got spoiled and we were initially talking about it, I was not a big fan. We put it in, and I have played with it, and I've played against it, and it is very powerful. It is subtle in a lot of ways, but it is very good. And
he'll haunt you.
Like
that's what I'm hearing.
It's just one of those things where, like, you know, the
giving your
plus
guy
one is surprisingly relevant.
Giving your guy vigilance and then adding to your loyalty comes up way more than I ever thought it would. And lightning bolting your opponents, your problems that your opponents has comes up.
He fights other planeswalkers really well, like in multiple ways of either tapping their blockers so you can attack their planeswalkers or just going straight at them.
I really think this card could have cost 3 mana and it had the middle ability to deal 2 damage.
It would have to also have lower loyalty.
I don't think so. Look at a Johnny Collar Pride. It's like the same kind of shell.
I mean, so, you know, does he... one thing you will see commonly at the lower level planeswalkers is not defending themselves very well.
Right.
And Ralzeric does suffer from that, but I think that he really operates well in a lot of other ways, and in kind of different ways, that I really like him. And, like...
So he's got, you know, 2 colors working against him. He's got the seemingly steep cost of defending himself, which isn't a 100% guarantee against him. And he also has when one of the newer kids on the block working against him, all at the same time. Again, I think that Ralzeric has only kind of gone up in my eyes since he's been initially spoiled. He's not like a home run hidden inside.
No, but he's fine. Yeah. I think he's better than...
You think he's better than a 23rd ranking overall?
I ranked him 11. I really like this guy.
I see that. And again, he is one of the 2 planeswalkers in this entire list that I felt had the largest polar ratings.
The biggest swings. I think give him more time. I think more time, the rating will go up.
All right, coming in at number 22.
Vraska the Unseen. Vraska is one of those cards that seemed... So this is kind of the exact opposite for me. Where
you thought it was going to be awesome.
Ral was a card I thought was bad. We played with it, and now I think it's very good.
Okay.
Vraska is a card where I read it, thought it was completely insane, played with it, and it was awful.
Do you know how many times people try to destroy a land with this card?
All the time.
So many times.
So Vraska has, 5 mana is an awkward casting cost for things like this. She kind of defends herself, but not.
She definitely. I mean, here's the thing about this card. This is a card that is in Cube, we'll call it Maelstrom Pulse. Don't come up with the pitchforks. In Cube, it's Maelstrom Pulse for 5, and then maybe suspend 2 Maelstrom Pulse.
It's like Maelstrom Pulse gains some life most of the time. Maelstrom Pulse. It's like Maelstrom Pulse provoke. In a way, like, make a guy...
Sure, attack, Mr. Pulse healing solve.
So,
with Planeswalkers, you usually get a free healing solve attack.
Yeah.
That's how it works out.
But, she's super clunky, and, she just doesn't efficiently answer much.
I'd be so much happier with this card if it just destroyed a land. So much happier with this card if it just destroyed a land.
It's very clunky.
She comes out and wins Planeswalkers fights a lot. And that matters a lot. And she's one of those cards where if left in control matches, if you kind of leave her alone for a couple of turns, all of a sudden you're coming at a completely new angle of attack. And in the rock decks, playing against the blue control decks, you have that new angle of attack, this new weapon.
Sure.
That you just... because again, they have Clearwater Goblets and Zuran Orbs and Vidalcan Shackles and just all these cards where it's just you're just not getting through on the ground. Now it's Vraska can come in, probably destroy that Shackles, but also just come in attack things from a different angle. And that's why, she's in the cube and made it onto the list a little higher than some of her other cousins.
So, not thrilled.
Destroyed a land.
Have put her up for removal a couple times. Coming in at 21.
Trending downward, by the way.
Didn't start high. no one was thrilled.
No, I could tell you. This card could fall off the planet tomorrow, and I would not notice.
Chandra Pyromaster.
Not a master of anything.
The M14 Chandra. I think everyone, the entire internet, exclaimed a collective meh when this card was spoiled, and I think that, you know...
we were pretty softened to the blow already. Like, we didn't see her all over the package being like, it's got to be the greatest card printed all year. It has to be. Look, she's on everything.
No.
It's going to cost 3 mana. It's going to come into play and immediately lightning bolt something for +1 loyalty.
It's a Chandra. It's going to do the same things that the other Chandras do.
Well, I didn't think it was going to be that narrow, but that's what we got at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't have a lot to say about this card. It pings. I guess you can maybe draw a card.
Okay, so
and then it's a dopey ultimate. It's like every other Chandra.
Let's talk about the experiences we've had with it. Is that middle ability draw a card? Yay or nay?
No.
All right. Well, why not?
Well, a lot of times. So, full disclosure, one of the times I've had Chandra Pyromancer was in red blue, and I had counterspells, so I didn't want to. I was wary.
So did you actively not zero it to not look like an idiot?
Right. Like, I had my, public image to maintain.
Sure. That was also your young Pyromancer deck at the same time.
Yeah, little everything. It's just...
I mean, what a meh card. Like, if this card had been printed in any other color, it would not be in the cube. The reason it's in the cube is because we have 2 Wildfires and a Jockalhops and some other shenanigans in our cube. Devastation. And we need cards like this that we can hopefully have do something and win games.
Yeah, so you can ult and cast triple Jockalhops.
Boom. Take that.
Destroy
Take that.
Everything.
Take that undying, persist, counter magic. You're going down.
So, again, I don't really have a lot to say about her. It's funny because coming in now at number 20 on the list is Chandra Nalaar's slightly larger sister.
Oh, man. This, to me, is a bit of a crime. I feel like. You're a little bent out of shape over Alzeric. I'm a little bent out of shape out of Chandra Nalaar.
5 mana is just so clunky.
It's funny because if we had recorded this before the draft today, I would have been even more up in arms. But then Chandra Nalaar went something like 13th again in the draft.
I think, at the more... I feel like every time we cube, I want 5 mana spells less. Does that make any sense? Like,
no.
5 just feels so clunky and awkward every time.
Huh, weird.
I want very few of them. And this, again, like...
The only reason I passed on her today, and I was drafting red-blue as usual, the only reason I passed on her was I was like 90% blue, and I didn't really have any red in my deck. I was playing like a Delver of Secrets Nivix Cyclops deck, and I was just like, I don't want to have to deal with double red cards I have to tap out on my own turn for. Otherwise, I would have wanted this. And exactly like the Crocodile says in the chat, she used to be a Baneslayer killer. This card used to see action pre and post Scred.
I will give Nalaar credit in the sense that she's one of the better planeswalkers for playing from behind. Like, because she usually comes down, kills something immediately, and in occasional cases will even live through the backswing. Just because she has so much loyalty.
Right, she takes care of the big problem with the intent to survive the comebacker so that she's at 1 loyalty so you can slowly start to get back in the game and then things start to play from there.
Having that high of a loyalty and her being able to kill a lot of things in cube is very nice, and not a lot of other planeswalkers can play defense as well as her. The problem is she doesn't do anything other than defense very well.
I mean, she's like a double suspend nuke your board.
That is very easily disrupted, sir. Relying on ultimates is not the way you want to be playing planeswalkers.
I agree, but this is one that's very easily obtainable and very impactful when it does happen.
Very easily obtainable is a stretch of a statement.
It's easily obtainable because the
by planeswalker standards, it is easily attainable.
And this is a planeswalker where the time in which you're trying to get to that is a time where it's very clear you're capable of doing it. You're not going to immediately jam Chandra and be like, I'm just going to get to 8. I know my opponent has stuff on the board. Stuff's going to happen. I'm just going to get there. I'm just going to get there. Because you have a way to answer your problems within the same card. Yeah. If you're pumping up the jams on this card, you have somewhere to go and you're probably going to get there. That's why I think this card is criminally underrated by the community. But at the same time, maybe I'm in the minority, and who knows, maybe time will continue to tell me that it's outdated information.
Coming in at 19, Nicol Bolas, Planeswalker.
Boom.
The big bad Mamma Jamma. Many a control deck top end is this card.
Eck has summed it up completely. He is a bad Mamma Jamma. He's a big Mamma Jamma.
He does not mess around,
These days, do you think... And I don't think this is real. Could you think you could open Nicol Bolas and then draft around it?
No, but you could certainly open Nicol Bolas, draft around it, and table it simultaneously. Like, Nicol Bolas is like, sick. Nicol Bolas, I'm going to play control deck, and I'm going to table that thing, and I'm going to get a 9th, and it's going to be awesome.
That is the way you do it now. When Conflux was released, it was the exact opposite. You would open Nicol Bolas and be like,
wham!
Right, I'm not going to yell too loud, but I got the Nicol Bolas.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to kick some butt. Nowadays, it's more like, oh, sweet. If I see Crumbling Necropolis, Watery Grave, Polluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire, Bituminous Blast, Electrolyze in the next 6 or 8 packs, I'm all about taking this card on the way back. Because the thing about Nicol Bolas Planeswalker is that it pretty much is just a one deck card. And
right. It doesn't have a widespread application.
No, you're never playing the mysterious black-red deck that Eck was talking about earlier and just find a blue mana source. You never play an Is It deck and be like, oh, no problem, double black at the top
that in there,
done. So you've already pigeonholed yourself into this thing where it's like, well, maybe I'm playing
Also, the sweet thing about Nicol Bolas is you will always get the Cruel Ultimatum.
Yeah.
So you get the 1-2 punch unless Zach Preston's there.
Oh, well, I was saying unless the other guy saw the same thing you did and
he's on the flip side.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them. So yeah, Nicol Bolas' ranking.
He's fine. He's just narrow.
I mean, he feels self-explanatory, because it has the one place to play. It's the top end. Aggressive decks are out there. You're not gonna just be able to hang out forever waiting.
However, if he hits the table in a big way. Well,
obviously, only Eck can mess it up and not take your opponent's Thragtusk in a game you could have easily won.
What? I don't even know what you're talking about.
It was 2 weeks ago. Remember that you destroyed his manland?
Why are you so obsessed with remembering my poor play?
Oh,
is it strictly so that you can bring it up on the internet?
No, we were Zach and I were talking about it. We were really confused, but it was
okay. So you're having a private conversation with another human being about me playing Magic, and now we're talking about it in public on the internet.
No, it was
you sound like a sociopath, you realize.
I'm trying to think of... It's hard to come up with examples where you slam that card and then lose.
Okay.
And you just made one mare and it got right there.
Okay. I guarantee you I'm not the only person to have ever played Nicol Bolas and lost.
No, I agree. I'm sure I've casted and lost.
Okay. Do you have an example off the top of your head?
Not one that happened within the last month that I can recall.
I have not played this card in the last
I'm going to go home, and I am going to do some research, and I'm going to come back with a good I cast Nicol Bolas and lost story.
Coming in at number 18, on the opposite end of the Planeswalker spectrum, a Johnny Collar of the Pride.
It's one color. It's 3 mana.
We've
got all the loyalty of the world.
Yeah, so...
This is probably the most confusing Planeswalker of all to me.
It's very... I think the problem is that his home is not a good home. He comes from a broken home. He's an upstanding citizen, but in the environment, it's just he needs a trading places
Oh yeah, analogy fell apart at that point. This was I don't know about you. This was the hardest one for me to rank. I did not know where to put this card.
Well, I didn't necessarily know where to put it because I don't really play it that often because I don't really play the white weenie deck that much.
But I'll play it in blue-white control.
I mean, I'll play it as the fact that it's a Planeswalker, it's going to be good. But clearly the home for this card is the Crusade Honor the Pure deck.
Is it?
I feel like that was the goal.
I thought it was some kind of curve out tempo kill you situation where it's you hope to play this
you want
after you play Sublime Archangel.
You want a double strike Vendilion click or something?
Preferably slightly better than that, but I'd accept that. I would rather plus him an attack for 4 than -3 him an attack for 6.
Well, I mean, but plus him attack for 4, minus him attack for 8.
I will. Yes, that sounds good. I will say you're right in the ballpark on this card because a lot of decks that play Vendilion Click are the same kind of decks that want to play this card. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that wants to go a Johnny Collar of Pride, untap with Mana Leak open, cast Standstill.
Well, that's what I was about to say. The fact this is a 3 mana time bomb, as it were. The white blue deck likes it because you could just play it on turn 5 with Counterspell up.
Yeah.
Or turn 4 with Force Spike up.
Yeah.
You know,
these are all things I love.
but like I feel like the initial goal of this card, or at least where I spent a long time evaluating it, is like in the White Knight, Silver Knight, Spectral Procession,
And that's
kinda
where
deck.
it's weird. That's where it's like I'm
And it's certainly fine there.
I'm never drafting the white creature deck.
I'm just never drafting that deck. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying if I am drafting a deck, it's hard for me to like, where do I evaluate this card?
Right. Like, is this better than a Crusade? Is this worse than a Crusade? Is this better than Spectral Procession? Is it worse? Like,
I think it's worse than all the cards you just named, and yet it's better than 5 Planeswalkers.
but it is not, however, better.
Oh man, another card I felt was criminally low on this list. Elspeth
Again.
Tyrell.
I feel like Planeswalkers by how their mana cost, and the closer you are to 5 mana, the lower on the list you go.
Which is weird because the community rated when we get near the top.
Yeah.
I think number 8 overall was a big surprise that came in where it did to me.
I'm not. I think this is low.
Sam of all people is with me. He believes me on this one.
I think this is low. I don't think it is insanely low. I think that I could have seen this card through. How high did I put this? Actually, now I'm curious.
I
ranked my list like a while ago.
I ranked this 9th overall.
So this is we are in
And we are
17th.
we're at 17th.
So
Eck had it at. I had 9th overall in this card.
You had it 9th overall. I had it.
Oh, so if I'm right,
I had it a couple lower.
So 14th overall. So it's much closer to your ranking.
Yeah, I had it. So we're like kind of splitting the difference. Anyway,
Yeah.
So this is a card great at defending itself, great at buying a ton of time.
Yeah.
Its ultimate is very relevant and very doable.
Yeah.
It's kind of slow. And I mean, that's really what hurt it for me, is that it's kind of slow. But I do really...
I would have thought this was a shoe-in for, like, top 10 Planeswalker. To me, this is, like, the quintessential...
You know what I realized
best
doing this
Planeswalker.
list? There are a lot of really good Planeswalkers.
I agree. That's why we make lists.
So
Again, it comes down, immediately makes blockers. It comes down and can immediately threaten Oblivion Ring, Oblivion Stone.
it can potentially gain you just a ton of life.
Yeah, take that, red deck. If you don't have that Hero of Oxidridge from X Draft from earlier, you're probably not winning.
Right.
Or if I'm at 4 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why people rank this card so low. I like it a lot more, and that's all I have to say. Really, it's
personal opinion. It should definitely be higher than this.
yeah.
next
This
Planeswalker.
one is probably one of the most we wait. I think that
We're disclosing this list. No matter how we react, this is the community agreed upon. We compiled
and not the entire community. We didn't ask every single. Wait, I mean,
Planeswalker metrics were used here.
right. I mean,
So-
I asked anyone that was willing to respond. I mean, someone like Evan Irwin even responded to a lot of the statements I put out there, but he didn't bother to generate a list for us. Like, I'm sure if we go back to his old archives, he has an old one, we could use it. But I'm not gonna do that work. You gotta send it in.
16th, Venser the Sojourner.
Yeah, this one
I'll tell you why I don't like this card.
this just confuses the hell out of me.
So I understand entirely why people really like Venser, and blinking things in Cube is one of the better things you can be doing, because there are so many good end of the battlefield effects. It's always flashy. It's always doing something really cool like that. You're blinking a Mole Drifter. You're blinking a...
Just say it.
Whatever.
Just say it.
But this card is... You're just jerking off. That's all this is. It's only good when you're already ahead, and you're literally just beating off in Magic card form. That's all this card is. You're just making wanking motions with your hands when Venser the Sojourner is in play. And it's like, I understand that people enjoy that, and, good for them, but that doesn't make it a good card.
I agree with this product or service. I endorse what you're saying. Venser is a spectacular win more card. It is.
He is a slam dunk of a win more.
Yeah, he is a very good countdown timer of parity to ultimate destruction. And
sure, his ultimate is definitely in the camp of absolutely no coming back from this one.
Right. Yeah. If you get the emblem, good luck. But it's not about that. It's about all these times where it's like he doesn't defend himself. You already have to have other tools.
What if you don't have any guys in play?
Right.
Now you're blinking a land.
And let's not discount the chat here. The chat here, Sam agrees with us, obviously. Norbert's surprised What is that?
That's
Norbert?
low for fantasy. See?
Yeah, I mean, his list is on there. We can take a look. And then we also have we don't forget about his second ability. Again, and I didn't get a chance to say this yet, he is a 5-mana Falter.
Second...
A 2-color...
Wave of Indifference is looking pretty shoddy here.
2-color 5-mana Falter.
I mean, his
Not
second ability...
winning me over.
Again, occasionally relevant, but only relevant when you're winning. Like,
Right.
This card is only good when you're ahead.
He can kind of break stalls, but at what cost? He's having usually zero impact on the board when he's attempting to break stalls.
Like, if you're going off with Bull Drifters and whatever, then good for you. You just beat off on the table in front of another dude, and that's kind of gross.
Let's not be sexist. It could be a woman.
It could be. But it's still not something you should be doing in public, let's just say that.
All right. So that one was a bit of a surprise. Actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. That's a shock to me. This is a bit of a surprise to me. I think that what I've learned is the Ajani's are very hard to evaluate.
Except for one of them, which is just all up.
Giving away all the secrets.
Spoilers.
Giving away all the secrets.
No one is surprised by that.
So
a Johnny Goldmane coming in at 15.
The token lord of the white section of Cube, it feels like.
This guy, I feel like... This guy, it's funny, to talk about Planeswalkers as being, like, already, like, outdated or, like, old school or something, but, like, I feel like this guy, like, the -1 on a Johnny was, like, the defining play of white in Cube for a really long time when this card got printed.
No, yeah, back when...
Like, Cloudgoat Ranger plus this guy was just all you did if you played white.
Back when there were 5 Planeswalkers in Cube, Johnny Goldman got stuff done a lot.
Like, he's definitely...
So, let's compare him to a Johnny Color of Pride, where I feel like there are multiple ways to go with a Johnny Color of Pride. It feels like a Johnny Goldmane is a one-way street. Never have I been like the control deck and been like, it's okay, I don't have any guys on the board.
Johnny Goldmane.
I'm going to get there with these other abilities.
It will gain you a lot of life.
It can.
Like,
and I think against bad decks, it performs well at doing that.
Sure.
Yeah,
good decks will shrug this off very quickly.
Yeah.
And,
like decks that were like teetering on losing the game, and you're like, bam, and Johnny Goldmane, ban game life and loyalty, how are you going to do? They were going to lose to Hill Giant anyways, it doesn't really matter.
But, like, having a Johnny into Cloudgoat Ranger blowout was absolutely like this standard operating procedure for white.
Spectral Procession,
Battle Screech.
I mean, like cards like Mere Battlesphere and Deranged Hermit don't really need him, but they could also use him.
So that was like white's just mode of operation for so long, and I think that just nowadays that's just not really the case.
Yeah,
compare this card. So compare this card to Sublime Archangel.
Probably still want a Johnny.
See, I don't know about that. Like,
Sublime Archangel can often be kind of a strangely all-in proposition.
Yeah, but she's also, like, very good even if you don't have a board.
So, like, for example, you play Sublime Archangel and your opponent has Lightning Bolt. You kind of got time locked.
Sure.
If you have a board and you cast Johnny Goldmane and your opponent has Lightning Bolt, you probably got counters on some of your guys.
Okay.
Not all of them, actually.
I'm saying, like, those are cards where they work best in similar decks. Like, the decks that want Sublime Archangel also want a Johnny Goldmane, but not a lot of other decks do. And I think that's just kind of like, people have moved on.
I mean, the confusion of this card kind of, for me, culminates in the fact that I've been really close to cutting him in years past. There have definitely been times where we've moved away from that. The control decks didn't want a Johnny Goldmane. He was kind of a one-trick pony, or cat, or whatever.
One-trick cat.
One-trick cat. So that was confusing.
Hey, get moving. 14th on the list, first appearance of many, Jace, Architect of Thought.
So this would be the other side of the coin on the 2 Planeswalkers that confused me the most in their evaluation.
I feel like this spot in the list is really the tipping point between mediocre to bad Planeswalkers and always good Planeswalkers.
I will say that when a lot of people submitted their rankings lists, they broke it down into tiers. I mean, actually, Justin Parnell, if you go and look up his information, he kind of broke them down into tiers and wrote up a little piece about them. Actually, Kenny as well, I'm sure listened to this after the fact. He's busy at Gen Con right now. He went in depth, and he almost put like a paragraph for everyone as to why, and I just didn't have room for that in the show. But there's definitely kind of a line in the sand that's drawn between, like, maybe Jack-in-It style Planeswalkers, maybe more like fringe playability or like seemingly unique abilities that may or may not do anything Planeswalkers.
One thing that the defining characteristics of very playable Planeswalkers are, in no particular order, usually 4 mana or less, a way to defend themselves at a positive rather, and some form of other card advantage tied to them in some effect or another.
Oh, I think that last one's a bit of gravy, personally.
But I mean, like, if you look, like, for the most part, like, the best Planeswalkers all kind of have those tendencies where they're coming down early enough to affect the game, they're capable of defending themselves while ticking up to their ultimates and making that threat and causing the game to warp around them, and if the defending themselves isn't necessary, they can also go on the front foot very well, usually either through some form of card advantage or resource denial to your opponents or whatever. So Jace is a good example of that. His +1 is very irritating. Like, against certain decks, this just blanks, like, half your opponent's spells. And it does that at a +1 profit. So it's just very powerful.
I mean, if you think of the classic Magic cards, I mean, creatures are always bad because very good spot removal has existed. Translate it over the cube, look at the larger history of Magic. The Army in a Can style is the way you kind of combat the good spot removal. Well, it's like Jace is one of the very rare and unique cards that could combat the Army in a Can style, while at the same time you're playing a color that could probably find the good spot removal. So he's very unique and very powerful, and it's like absorbing your opponent's board.
And I mean, being able to go 3 deep, on the -2.
Yeah.
There are plenty of games where you just play Jace -2, untap -2, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, the matches where you want to do that are very clearly defined, and they're very good.
Yeah, just double, strategic planning basically, with the occasional option to just draw 2 cards if you wanted to.
Yeah, if your opponent makes a bad split.
Yeah, it's just very, very good. And I mean, his ultimate obviously not exactly designed for.
I almost did it today.
I've done it. I mean, it's fine. It's a.
Remember when Vin did it and he didn't look in his own library?
Yeah, it's not immediately So, anyway.
So there you have it. We're kind of at the turning point. We've I wouldn't say we've crested the hill, but we're not. That's not the way we're going.
No. So, 13th place, Jace, Bellerin, back to back.
3 mana is really what's doing it here.
Yes.
Classic Jace, as it were, is very simple on the outside, and in Cube, maybe it's just a draw. Wait, Sam really likes a Jace Bellerin. He's interrupted us to tell us how horribly wrong we are.
The slow draw 3 for 3 is really where this card is a lot of times.
It does a lot of stuff, and again, it forces interaction and more gameplay than a lot of other Planeswalkers do. If anything, this is a card that rewards the good players.
This is one of the interesting Planeswalkers that almost never threatens his ultimate. A lot of Planeswalkers okay, I get control of the game, I get to be even, whatever. We're just going upstairs. And with this, you're just never doing that. Because if you have control of the game, why would you give your opponent more cards? So, but at the same time, this is a sweet one, Every blue deck I think I've ever had this card in, I've played it. I've never cut it.
Yeah, I don't know what's more just mentally damaging in a game. If it's being hit by a Shadow Mage Infiltrator, an Orphan Viper, or having your opponent just go minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't notice. So you're oh, I'm just getting so buried under this card.
Yeah, you just get absolutely crushed.
Especially when they first pump it up to go back to 3 and you get a land and you're
But at the same time, on the flip side, when you play it and draw a card and your opponent attacks it, you're oh, I just drew a card and gained all this life and forced my opponent to attack. This is such a sweet deal. So for the low price of 3 mana, you too can draw some amount of cards.
Jace Bellerin is one of those cards where he's been covered many a time in many a format. And in Cube he plays more like that Ophidian style card than a lot of other ones. Now, again, people like Usman and Sam, who are very vocal in the chat right now about that ranking, again, you'll get to see why he was so low based on what the rest of the community is saying here. We're coming in now. This is a stark contrast from the card we just saw.
Right. On the flip side, number 12, Garrick Primal Hunter, the big green mean machine.
Where did I really put? I don't think I put this card that high. No, I ranked this card lower. I didn't feel he was this high on the list.
This card, the thing holding this guy back, obviously, is his mana cost. +1, make a beast is quite a big game.
Right.
I have drawn many a card with his minus. I don't think I've ever bothered to ultimate him because I just want to instead draw 5 cards or whatever.
You've ultimated against me and you've won those games.
Did I?
Yeah. Oh, it's like the reverse trolling that you thought I was doing to you earlier. I can distinctly
No, I
remember.
just like every time I have this guy, all I want to do is just like minus him to draw like a stack of.
I don't know.
cards.
I think that anytime you're playing this card and immediately minusing it, you are digging for answers.
Well, no. I'm not saying immediately. I'm just saying like once you like get this guy in play and established, like once it gets to like 5.
Oh, that's different. Oh,
then
yeah.
you're just like, all right, go time.
I'm going to say 6 out of 7 times when I play this card, I plus him, untap, do something, and then minus him.
I usually
That's-
+1 -3 is like the immediate way this guy goes.
And in many ways, that like makes sense because you're playing the super fat green deck and you haven't drawn any cards, and that's how this Planeswalker kind of gives you that opportunity. Now, what to me makes it should be, I feel like a lower ranking, is because it's a fragile card draw style and something that a slow like Centaur Glade for 5 mana isn't the kind of impact I want at the 5 or more mana cost in Cube. I look at this card and I was like, you have to plus it, minus it with something good in play for it to have the effect that you always want it to have every time, and that's after already investing green into.
I just think that, this guy defends himself excellent. He defends himself very well. He also plays on the front foot very well, in the sense of like, if you're ahead, this guy really puts the hammer down because
I guess.
he just makes it very hard. He's a very hard to
I
deal
don't
with.
know, like if I'm already winning, this isn't even a card I want to cast. I'd rather cast the other card in my hand.
I mean,
Calling up the herd at 5 mana when I'm like...
it's not about
Probably
calling up the
gonna
herd
win.
for 5 minutes. It's the fact that even if your opponent wraths, you're just going to keep making more 3/3s, and evenally you're going to draw cards or ult him and go even bigger.
I mean, the scenario you
Like,
described, like
you-
I would do the other thing, and then when I put a wrath, then I cast this card.
You force it forces a lot of action out of your opponent, one way or the other. It digs you out of a lot of holes that especially in green, few other cards will do. And I think that's really where it gets a lot of bonuses. Also, the double-edged sword to his casting cost is that if you're the green mage, you can pretty reliably see this, like the blue mage with like a bunch of dual lands is probably not going to get this greedy.
We're not coming. I mean, trust me, as a seasoned blue mage, I don't really want any part of your Garrix, except for one of them.
Higher than Garrick, I'm not sure, but at number 11 on the list,
We're to continue the trend of the extremely colored mana requirements. Please change that picture.
Koth of the Hammer.
Pants.
It's hammer time.
Polarizing is how I feel about this Magic card. Maybe a little too binary. I think Anthony's submissions to this list talked about things like that, where some Planeswalkers are just, they're on or they're off. There's no really in between here. Sam, I continue to agree with you. I do think
Yeah,
that
I
Jace is
also
better than
agree
this
with
card,
you.
but it is what it is. So, I mean, I don't feel like there's a whole lot to say about Koth. I guess the question you could kind of pose is do you ever use that middle ability?
No. I've never once in my life seen anyone -2 this guy. Like, including actual constructed formats where people played him. Like, willingly, like, not drafted. It's literally just +1/+1 minus shoot you. That's all this card ever does.
Oh, I often see just a plus game over.
Well, sure. I mean, like, that'll happen too sometimes. But, most people want to get the emblem online, because of the inevitability of it. But it's, it's a four. It really at its heart, it's a 4-mana haste guy for 4 in red. Which
Yeah,
there are.
he's a G-Hound, and he's
Yeah.
coming for you. But
And he's got some, like, incidental upside attached to him.
right,
But it's,
he's kind of like a super creature.
yeah.
Like if you had to attack the Lava Hounds the turn after it came into play and attacked you, otherwise it might get out of hand.
Right.
I'll give it that. And again, it's very polarizing, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot like, whoa, well, there's all these really deep scenarios where you could play Koth, really interact with Koth. I think that the trap for this card is when the Wildfire decks try to take it and get a lot out of it, and oftentimes end up with a Koth on the table they can't activate.
Yeah. But
If played properly,
Yeah.
he will do nothing.
Koth suffers from what, I've already talked about a bunch, which is the lack of defense. Like, Koth, if you're aiming to keep Koth in play a long time, you need somebody to step in front of him to take some hits, and he doesn't bring that himself, and that's probably
some of those 2-power guys and little red decks. Like maybe when they can't get through the enemy's lines anymore, they can defend. I mean, I'm not saying he's bad. He's obviously top 15 quality planeswalker.
He's 11 quality planeswalker.
Yeah.
In the top 10. We're now in the top 10.
Controversial breaking the top 10 as far as I'm concerned. I did not vote Soren Lord of Innistrad for president on this one, but
I absolutely did.
A lot of the other community really thought this guy was primo.
I am a big fan of Soren. This guy, as far as I'm concerned, is the second coming of Elspeth.
But I don't think you could even make that assumption.
Like
I'm gonna let you ride this Ponyak. Tell the people at home why this is the 10th best planeswalker.
I mean, he plays in both directions so well. Like,
how does he defend himself?
He makes guys.
All right. Sorry. All right, I'm sorry.
I mean, how does he not defend himself?
All right.
He literally makes jump blockers that gain you life.
Yeah.
Like, being able to -2 him for emblems if you want to get on the offensive is also
which
good.
Does happen. You know,
it happens.
It's not one of those. It's not that ultimate that never plays out, or that middle ability we just ignore.
And his ultimate also happens and is relevant more often than you'd think. I mean, it's more the threat of his ultimate being very good that really causes people to like expend significant resources to prevent it from happening, which is always good. But you know, even if he just hangs out and play and like makes a little army and then eventually just starts embleming your team and you just kill your opponent faster than they were expecting, I think it's very good.
I don't know. I feel like 4 times out of 5 when I play this card, he is a distraction from my bigger plan. Like I'm never casting Soren being like, this is the road to victory. I'm casting it being like, this is the distraction. This is the magic act where this is like look over here. I'm really gonna win the game with this. You don't see the consecrated Sphinx into Karn coming because you're attacking this Soren the entire time, and I've gained 4 life.
That's quite a deck you've constructed.
It's pretty
spectacular.
Pretty run of the mill. I don't know what you're talking about. Esper control happens all day.
I think that I played a lot with this card.
We've already ranked cards below this one, like 5-mana Garruk, Koth of the Hammer, that can win games on their own, that can come down and just do it. Where this card, yes, you can make a guy, you can emblem those guys, they got kind of big, you can attack. That can happen. It just is so rare to me that I really see Soren Lord of Innistrad as a role player in a lot of my good control decks.
I mean, I'll give you that he's much more of a role player rather than being like an all-star, but you have to recognize like the effect he has on games. Like you were saying, like he's the distraction, he's the look over here kind of thing. Look over here, I guess. That's
I know. We're both.
It's
all backwards to us.
So, but at the same time, like he's very, very, very good at that. You know, there are certain planeswalkers where you'll play them, and your opponents will just ignore them and continue killing you.
This is not one of
Sword
them.
is not one of those.
Yeah, but I agree with you there. You want to look at the distraction. You have to deal with it. It's not like a Johnny Goldmane gaining life type situation.
Right. So,
breaking the top 10. Coming in at number 9.
Number 9.
You know him, you love him, you've seen him for years.
Garruk, Wild Speaker.
He's been printed more times than the dollar bill. He's everywhere and then some. The best of the original 5 planeswalkers. Actually, we don't even need to. We don't even.
Chase Bellerin, come on.
Hello, there's a list right there. It just. It's not even up for debate anymore.
I mean, if we're going by this list, then
I would actually say that when Lorwyn was first printed, in the initial.
This was the one everyone realized immediately it was going to be.
This is the one that saw play immediately. I think I was still very much in the Chandra camp and was interested in what Jace could do before the whole like Revelark momentary blink trick days. But
Garruk is awesome because he is so flexible. Like, are you playing an aggressive deck? Play him, plus him, and you're immediately threatening overrun, and your opponent has to jump through a lot of hoops to stop that from happening. Are you behind? Make some beasts. Your opponent still has to go out of their way to kill this thing because it's otherwise going to make more beasts or do whatever. Are you in parity? Accelerate a whole bunch and plus him and drop some huge fatty.
We joked about how Koth of the Hammer, no one ever uses his seeming Seething Song ability. which means that this is kind of the only planeswalker that really kind of ramps you.
Rouse Eric, baby.
Oh my god, be real, son.
I ramped with him the other day.
Ramped what?
I was untapping Mana Vault with it.
And doing what?
Casting spells.
Oh, okay. Well, but I'm saying, like, Garrick, Wildspeaker, consistently ramps players in decks that want to do that.
Yes.
Not just, like, randomly happen to draw my... Take Possession? No, that's not a card. I'm trying to think of the thing that in the red-blue deck that you're like...
Increasing confusion?
My plan is to always... Oh, sure, but that's not the same.
Anyway.
This is the only planeswalker that does this.
Yes.
Yes, he defends himself with beasts. Yes, he has Overrun built in, a card that is subpar in cube, and you should not run in your cube, but it is nice to have that
But it's glued to other things. It's a lot better.
If you get it for free, it's good. These are all things I like. I think Garrick Wildspeaker, while maybe a crime to some people in comparison to Jace Bellerin, is still the best initial Lorwyn Planeswalker, and rightfully so on this list where he is, I feel.
Certainly very good. Coming in at number 8, bit of a surprise, although not really. Tameo the Moon Sage. The more I thought about this, the higher it went.
Now, it's funny, I'm actually surprisingly close on this one, but I almost feel like it was out of coincidence, because I think that it's a 5-mana one, it's... who am I kidding? It taps down your opponent's shit even when it isn't already tapped. It draws cards.
It deals with your opponent's best threat, no matter what it is. And that's, like, very rare. Like, even Chandra Nalaar cannot say that, because there are certain things that Chandra Nalaar, like, is not going to be able to kill. Tameo does not care. And that's awesome. Like, she doesn't really have much of a middle ability. Like,
she does.
The Keep Watch.
Oh, she does. Oh, she does.
She
does.
Well, all right.
Oh, she does.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she does. Dungeon Geist into Icy Manipulator into the thing you tap last turn, draw 3. It happens.
One of those cards is not even dead.
Currently. But I'm saying things like this. Your opponent attacked. And you're like, now would be a good time to draw Wrath of God. All of these things happen. Tameo is a spectacular planeswalker. Now, and again, thinking about in the more of the vague, like, we're not ranking the planeswalkers in a vacuum for Magic. We're ranking them for Cube. And Tameo is high on this list because she's in the right color. I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah.
She's blue.
If this card was a different color, it certainly would probably not see as...
Oh, no.
If this was black.
If this was the black equivalent, the red equivalent, the green equivalent.
If it was just the same text but a black card.
I think, like, the white equivalent is with Gideon Jura, so we can't really make that.
If this was literally Tameo the Bad Moon Sage, and it was black instead of blue, with the exact same wording, where do you think it would lie?
Better. I mean, like, not on this list, but it would just be a better card.
But I mean, like, on this
black
list.
desperately wants that.
Like, this list would be, like, in the 12th. Like, just because people just shit all over black.
Was drawing more black cards doesn't mean you win games.
Exactly.
You can draw your whole deck, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Tameo is the real deal. I think that this was one that this could be a wine that could even age better.
Yeah.
You're not going to see this.
It seemed like it was, like, very... When we first added it, no one was really like, "Oh my god, Tameo!" But then, like, over time, like, its stock has slowly risen.
Yeah, I think that just people played with it enough that they really understood how the card worked. I think that they were a little too caught up on the Johnny Vengeance, kind of being like, "I do this, I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again," and then eventually this game-changing thing happens where it's like, well, no, it's blue planeswalkers are going to have incremental advantage, oftentimes that you might not even notice how it's happening. Cough, cough, Jace Bellerin. So that's kind of how that one snuck in.
Yeah. Number 7.
Everyone's favorite planeswalker, party crasher, etc., etc.
The frame is all screwy for this one.
That's what we get for doing some very cheap Twitch framing.
Garrick Relentless.
Yep.
So, Garrick Relentless, green removal, extraordinaire.
Yeah.
What more can you say? Splashable.
Good to ramp into early. Good to kill things that green decks can't deal with. Good to be picked up by any color other than green in a deck that can easily find his way in.
Good to play defense with. Good to play offense with. Good to have, like, some kind of crazy... you're tutoring for stuff.
Yeah. Poor man's Survival of His is also a good card.
Also, crazy free overrun.
Sometimes.
Very rarely.
A lot of people just do not know what the -3 on the backside of that card
Right, the game never gets to that point.
Or it does, and they just don't. They either, most commonly, they don't activate it when they should.
Mm-hmm.
But way worse is when they activate it and it's like, okay, wait, let me read that. So you guys have Trample now?
Yeah.
Well, no, they get +3/+3 jump. No, they'll read it. They get trample. There's nothing in your graveyard.
Yeah, so... But, I mean, Garrick is one of those cards where, like, even if it was just the front, it would probably almost be good enough.
Plus, you gotta give it to this Planeswalker, because this is the first one with the new rules that will now just break a game of Magic.
Oh.
Because there's text saying he flips if you each control one.
On, like, opposite sides?
Yeah, well, no, if you had two Garrick Relentlesses, and then a Garrick Relentless, like,
when
one
Garrick...
side flips.
Oh. Wait, no, what are you talking about?
So I have Garrick Relentless, you have Garrick Relentless.
Okay.
You attack my Garrick Relentless,
okay,
down to 1 counter.
Okay.
So now, both Garrick Relentlesses...
They both do not flip.
Why not?
Because when Garrick Relentless, when a card name is on the text of a card, it is just long form for the phrase "this card." Like that is part of the rules.
Okay. Okay.
Like that.
I mean, you understand reading it what it says, though, right?
I mean, sure.
All right.
Anyway,
don't have to.
It also says on him.
Oh, it does say on him. Way in there. All right. Tangent aside.
Anyway,
so other decks are going to pick up this card.
The rare splashable Planeswalker. You know, very. Most of these are double blue, double black, double red, whatever. 2 color, 3 color. You know, so it's
4 mana, 1 green.
It's
really all you need to know about this card.
It's easy to slip into anywhere, and it's always going to be a good one.
That's a soundbite.
Coming up next, 6th place, just out of the top 5, the other Gideon, the better Gideon, Gideon Jura.
19 spots later on the list. He's back and better than ever, ladies. Talk about controlling the game.
Yeah.
Gideon Jura, the more they print good creatures, the more the creatures matter in Magic, the better this card can get.
Gideon is an excellent card in all phases of the game. If you're behind, he buys you at least a turn, if not 3, 4, even more. If you're at parity, he's coming down, killing a dude, and forcing your opponent to attack anyway because they have to deal with him.
He's usually making your opponent attack into him, which kills plenty of other dudes if you're at parity.
Yeah.
And always a 6/6, which is really nice.
If you want to get aggressive, he's a 6/6 for 5 mana that doesn't die.
Yep.
You know, this card just does it all. You know, he's just.
What's the most counters you've ever had on Gideon Jura?
Like 16.
16. Yeah, I was gonna say about the 20 range.
Like I
think I've definitely like thought seize my opponent once, like saw you at a Doomblade, and like the game.
Yeah, you're just I'm not gonna attack.
Wow, this is Sam's favorite Magic card. Favorite card in Magic, which doesn't necessarily mean it's his favorite Magic card.
No,
but
this is a stellar one.
And this is kind of really getting into like Tameo Gideon for as long as you could.
This is kind of like the point in the Planeswalker if we were to make like the tier list, like the pick band
just
tier.
Shoots off the board.
This is like the justifiable first pick.
The bought the apple stock in the 80s style.
Like this is like the justifiable first pick out of a lot of packs.
Right.
Section.
Right. No, you first pick Garrick, Tameo, Garrick. Yeah, you first
maybe.
pick those out of a ton of packs.
So
at this point, it feels like we've like said most of the things that we're gonna be saying about cards that we might have been alluding to on the way up the list.
Number 5, a card that was alluded to.
Top 5. Now, when a lot of people talk top 5 Planeswalkers, this is pretty definitive here. I feel about this way. And talk about how good this card must be, because it's 2 colors, and that does not deter us, ladies and gentlemen.
A Johnny Vengeance.
Nothing I like more than a Wrath of God. Or, sorry, an Armageddon.
Nothing I like more than a Lightning Helix.
Maybe an Armageddon? Armageddon U?
Armageddon U? A lot better. A lot better. This does not include your lands. It should say that.
Yeah, target player kind of breaks my balls a little bit. Destroys lands. Parentheses does not include your lands.
Yeah.
For those that enjoy some beta wording.
Johnny Vengeance is one of those cards where he just seems like
he went criminally late in our draft today.
He did well. You know, red-white is occasionally a weird color combination, and that's really one of the only strikes against.
Yeah, heaven forbid this card was actually red-blue. If this was Ral Zarek,
if this was Ral Zarek, then like, whew, you got a stew going. Or if this was white-blue, or really anything.
So he chokes your opponent's mana. He kills your opponent's creatures. He chokes your opponent's big threats. He looms this very impactful ultimate that you either kind of have to like hold resources to try to come back from, or try to like go headlong at it to prevent it from happening.
He creates very unenviable positions.
Yes.
Of either undercommitting or overcommitting, and you're never really sure which way you're going.
Few things feel worse than knowing you can't stop his ultimate from coming. He's like on 6 counters, and you draw your card from the turn, and you're like, fuck. Should I concede now, or hang out for 15 more minutes?
Yeah.
What would you prefer?
Yeah. Number
Seems
4.
like a short testimonial, but I think we all...
Everybody knows.
As we move up the list, we've like the soliloquies written to these cards have only become larger and more vast.
Yeah. Number 4, a card I am a humongous fan of.
Hey, did you know that we actually play Black Planeswalkers in the cube? Because I wasn't sure.
Go figure.
Yeah, we actually have one. Here it is.
We have one. Liliana of the Veil. I am a massive fan of this card. I really enjoy it.
I can already tell Sam drafts Zoot way too often.
Yeah.
He does not care for this card because he always has more than one guy in play. But please go on.
I really enjoy, I always enjoy decks that involve the graveyard and taking advantage of like things like symmetrical discard. In my ideal like dream world, I have like I'm discarding Bloodghasts and
I'd say
Gravecrawler.
I think it's already funny that you've started on like the lowest rung of this card's power levels.
Right.
Like, trying to find value in the seemingly symmetrical discard and break the symmetry is very, very good.
But like that's sweet. And then being like, oh, I'm an aggressive deck, and you can just drop your hand while chewing up a control opponent's hand. Oh, now your control, like your opponent played a 2-drop. Now you like edict them, and now you have this thing in play that is going to be threatening or a problem. Like, I just think Lily Veil is very.
I think
very
constructed formats have really done the work for us on explaining why this card is good. Yes, in Cube, it's in the weakest color. And in a way, that almost makes it more serviceable for being so high on the list, because Black has always had a problem with 3-drops. You can't always cast Necropotence and have that be good. So this really kind of, having that option of like ticking it up against control decks, ticking it down against creature decks, having it only cost 3 mana, having it be a Planeswalker for Black is that big of a deal. And again, it's only going to get better with time, and the Black Mage is only going to get more use out of the graveyard that it's even going to go further.
Number 3, in the bronze metal position.
The first thing you've got to think is 7 mana? Come on!
I know.
Why are the card that costs 7 mana so high on the list?
Karn Liberated, for those of you who have not put it together. This is one where I feel like it kind of took a while.
What do you
agree?
What do you mean took a while? To
get people to realize like the power.
I mean, I gotta give it up to Luis on this one. Do you have problems with permanence? Would you like to take care of permanence? Play Karn Liberated. He deals with permanence. It doesn't see. I mean, this is a card that when I saw it on the spoiler, I thought it was fake.
Right.
I thought there was no way this card was real.
Like this, like weird artifact planeswalker.
Everything about it did not make sense to me.
10 loyalty.
Yeah.
Like
+4. Get the hell out.
14. Make a new game. Like what the hell? Like Scheherazade. That's not a thing they're gonna do. Like it's just like Karn Liberated either.
And Karn Liberated doesn't even get justice because we play in a singleton format, so you never get to go minus, untap, minus, cast the next one minus.
Like, Karn is one of those cards where, like, either he comes down, deals with your opponent's best card, and it still soaks a ton of damage, or stays in play, which is disgusting, or he comes down into, like, a relatively stable board, like, makes your opponent exile a card, and is instantly unkillable for the rest of the game.
Your opponent's like, well, I could throw all my guys at it and have it
twice.
Not die.
Like,
yeah, I love when your opponent's faced with the idea of like, I'll completely attack. I'll attack with everything. If your opponent blocks none of it, he'll go to like 2, and then my opponent will be forced to use the plus ability next turn and only have 6 loyalty.
Like it's just insane. Like it's just so hard to keep up with the loyalty generation on this. And if you're ever in a position where you could, he'll just exile whatever is causing that to happen.
Yep, it's a good magic card.
And then if you really get backed into a corner, just make a new game. Why not?
Yeah. You know when you know that you've just like completely warped the game with Karn, your opponent should probably scoop. It's when you plus it targeting yourself.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
when
When
you
you're
know-
throwing like the other planeswalkers,
Sure, whatever. You're like,
I've seen that.
You're like,
I've definitely like looked over like when my match is finished, like Caitlin, what's going on over here? And they're like, I'll activate Gideon Jura or card target myself, exile Gideon Jura, and it's just like, all right, I don't need to look
that
at this
seems
game
wrong.
anymore.
It seems like a definite misplay. Okay, so yeah, that really, I mean, that brings him back from the brink with the 7 mana. I mean, we've talked so much about how the importance of 3 and 4 mana planeswalkers are in the cube, but Karn, everyone plays him, everyone wants him, except for aggro red, I guess. That big red black deck from an hour and a half ago definitely wants that card.
Definitely wants this card.
Yeah.
Critter Hellion in the card.
Yeah. So number 2 on the list.
For a long time, well, not a long time, but for a while, was number 1.
Yeah, from October of 2008
Yeah.
to January of 2010. This was the best planeswalker in the cube.
It's a window.
Back when there were,
Not everybody gets a best in the world.
There were 8 planeswalkers instead of 5 or whatever.
Elspeth Knight Errant, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about.
All up, no down.
All up, no down.
This one, you don't need to be a magic scientist to really understand why this card is good.
Interesting rarity in that her ultimate doesn't win you the game, and it doesn't even necessarily feel like it.
And it's again, this is one of those cards where I think you're either ultimating her and then like wrathing, or you're just not ultimating her and angelic, embrace or whatever your opponent to death.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not ultimating her and then immediately casting Chroma's Vengeance or something, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the only reason that her ultimate goes off is to like be in conjunction with some other effect.
Right.
But that being said,
it's usually because you just ultimated Tameo as well.
Dudes at a profit, attacking at a profit, jumping. She's a great for fighting other planeswalkers, in being able to throw guys over the wall, so to speak. I think plays well with Moat.
I think oh my god, one of the best cards with Moat. I mean, Gideon Jura is pretty good with Moat because you're like shields up all over the place.
But this one's really
this is
good.
just game over with Moat. The testament to how good this card is. What if it costs 5? Where would it be on this list? Top 10?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. It's worth debating.
Like,
if this card costs 5, triple white and 2.
Also, like 5 loyalty. Like the enter the battlefield plus going up to 5 loyalty and a blocker.
And no one can screw that up. That's the best part about that card. You
can't not
play
make it go to 5.
Not end the turn
So like
5 loyalty.
being able to go like 4 mana, you get 5 loyalty and a blocker. It means like it's very likely that you're going to get to untap with Elspeth. Like it's very hard for your opponent to like get through this blocker and deal her 5. That just like in most game states it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, as usual.
So I just
Yeah, I mean, again, we could write long-winded poems about these things, but there you have it. I mean, really, game over at this point. We don't need to say anything else. You know how the show ends. Save yourself 5 minutes. Have a drink. Go to bed early. Whatever it is. Oh wait, right? Yeah, Jason Mind Sculptor's the best planeswalker in all the cube. Get out of town. Who'd have thought?
Oh, spoiler alert.
By
it was his sled.
Now, unanimous voting by the committee, by the way. There was no 97% on this motherfucker.
Was Elspeth a unanimous number 2? I think it was. Because this is absolutely unit. Oh, no, we have one outlier.
No, there was a Karn Liberated in
Justin
there.
Parnell put Karn Liberated
above
Elspeth, and he is the only one to do so.
Yeah, he is the...
in case anyone was curious as to how that specifically went.
So, batting 1,000 on Jace being number 1, and
no one needs to hear about this.
Again, do you really want us to talk about this card and explain to you how good it is?
I don't even
we
want
all get it.
We all get it. We all...
Whatever it is, we're all very proud.
Yeah. So, with a shocking twist finish.
Yeah, I mean, what a kind of a letdown, really.
Right.
Maybe we should have done this in reverse order. All the exciting talking points that pass us by. Oh wait, if we'd done it in the reverse order, it would have been the exact same way. No, this really bad card is here. This really bad spot.
We should have ended at like 13.
Just come to the middle, 125, 224.
Yeah.
And with a fight in the middle. Oh, that would have been a way better show. Why did we do that?
So, anyway, that is pretty
I stand
much...
by my personal views on this particular list, in this particular episode. I don't know if I necessarily stand by the collective list that we've assembled as a team.
It's certainly
here.
worth talking about, and it's certainly interesting. Other than the OBS number one of all time. No.
What is Sam asking?
Those of us who didn't memorize your cube could be wondering what some of the other Chandras, where some of the other Chandras are going to be. Well, you know.
Thank you.
The Chandra Shuffle. They should have all just been, like, tied for 18.
All you had to do was watch a show from 2 weeks ago to tell you that the only reason we even play Pyromaster is because we're so tired of seeing Firebrand.
We should just put all the Chandras at, like, one slot. Because they're all just the same card.
They? Oh, well, because if we had cut Pyromaster and replaced it with Firebrand, it would have pretty much...
been the exact...
I don't know, I think Ral Zarek's probably better than Chandra Firebrand at this point. Oh, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is for the here and the now and the what's in the cube. Now, I could touch on briefly the Planeswalkers that did not make the list.
Honorable mentions.
Yeah, I even went as far as to rank the ones that I even considered worth playing. And I think Anthony's comments about... where are you going? Let's go back to that second column, because I think those are Kenny's. Yeah, those are Kenny's. So, yeah, those are the ones I had. So the comments about Big Jace or Jace Memory Adept is it's too binary. It's too like you don't even get to play a subgame. Like if Planeswalkers are all about creating a subgame of Magic, that card just doesn't even allow you to do it.
Jace Memory Adept for those, yeah, just
5 mana, Milia 10, good game.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
I was wrong. Not a good game. Then we have Sark and Vol, who I've been kind of kicking around, bringing back in, and he's kind of right there with Domri Raid, being like, "Hey, if we're going to bring somebody into the cube for,
I think
Gruul to have a Planeswalker, who's it going to be?"
Domri's fine. I think. I don't know.
I mean, so we got to break the numbers down. Are you playing a 17 creature deck out of 40 cards?
Like it's not onslaught block. I'll give you that, but
yeah.
You know, I think Domri is fine. Liliana Vess just suffers from being black at 5 mana. And not...
She suffers from having the ability black, yes.
And also, like, she doesn't defend herself very well. She's very slow.
Right. And we
Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. Fine card, narrow card.
We played in Cube for a while.
It was in for a bit, but, I mean...
It just never came together.
Yeah.
No. And the same thing with Tezzeret the Seeker. I think for, like, 2 seconds we considered playing that card, and it was like, it's just so narrow...
It's just like it didn't do anything,
right? And this is we live in a
even
world
if you got the deck together, you're like sick. Now I can untap these mocks to do nothing.
Yeah, we live in a world where we don't play Time Vault, but we play a lot of artifacts. Like, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm sure that as time goes on, the list of Planeswalkers we play will only get larger.
Oh, right. They're only going to make more good ones. I mean,
right. There's only...
We're going to ration them.
Gideon Champion of Justice's slot is under
He's
a
living
lot of duress right now.
Same with Sark and the Mad, as far as I'm concerned.
Sark and the Mad and Gideon are probably two of the...
It's funny, on the list, like the three that are the fastest to get the boot would be like Gideon, Sarkin, and the new Chandra.
Oh, new Chandra.
Oh, no, we've covered. We all like Venser. We just want to... Let's be real about what it does.
There are public decency laws to consider.
So, that's going to do it for tonight, ladies, gentlemen, friends, well-wishers. It's been a while. We apologize for that. Life's been busy. I actually have to be back up in like 6 hours, so...
I actually don't tomorrow. It's awesome.
Well, you can just go to hell. No wonder
I get to get up in 7 hours.
Yeah. Well, I have to also drive home for 45 minutes after getting gas first, so... It's going to be a long night.
Life.
But we pledge to be back. We will. Our next show will undoubtedly be the Assessment of Black episode that we had done the prep work for the other week and did not get a chance to record. So look for that soon, and hopefully the Rate the Planeswalkers episode will hold you over for now. All of that teeming excitement on who's the best, who's the worst.
Feel free to yell at your friends about it on
Why
Twitter.
isn't this one on the top? Why isn't Jace Bellerin in the top 4?
Like, I mean... It's certainly a point of contention. There's no right list or wrong list, but it's certainly we're talking about.
Until then, you can tell Eck about it at Young Mecca on Twitter. You can find me at Tristan Gregson on Twitter. If you have any other information you'd like to send our way, feel free to email us at draftcube@gmail.com. Also, make sure you stop by ecomon.blogspot.com for all of our episodes, some nice Cube picks, Cube updates, and links to the CubeTutor.com, as well as the TappedOut.net.com, as well as the Google Docs for the current Cube list. It's all there. It's a great resource. And last but not least, please donate. if you like what you've heard here today and you'd like us to do more and or interesting stuff, there should be one of those links still handy, correct?
Absolutely.
You can still currently find us on MTGcast as well. We've been a while since we posted there, but we will keep taking what's coming to us. Anything else?
I don't believe so. No.
The beginning of the show covered all the housekeeping stuff. Go back. We talked about some cards. It was all good.